When somebody says Happy Father's Day, my default setting is same to you. So I already made that mistake once today. Today I'm thinking about my own father. He died in 1962. The reason I remember it was in 1962 was in 1962 I was at PSR and I was doing my dissertation. I had everything all planned out. Each day I had to write 8 pages. I had done all the research and I'm writing the dissertation. Each day I had to do 8 pages. I had to finish before the summer because we had a trip planned to go to Hong Kong. Some of the Chinese ministers are going. And then my father died. All right, so that set me back 2 weeks. That's how I remember that was in 1962. He died of congestive heart failure. We lived on Russian Hill, which is, up the hill from Chinatown. And every day, he would, after he retired, he would walk down to Chinatown, back, and then twice a day he would walk down, do a little shopping, see his friend, and so on. And then after a while it became more difficult for him to walk up the hill. And my dad knew that when he couldn't do it anymore, that he knew that the end was near. Now I think in the 1960, probably bypass operations weren't started yet and people didn't put in stents. And so you're having difficulty with the blood supply going to the heart. Why then there's not a whole lot you can do about that. So my dad went to see the doctor. He's very impatient, and in Chinatown there's no appointments. You just go. There's a room full of people. He decided he didn't want to sit and wait. I went down to a Chinatown store where he had some cronies. And he told them, I'm not feeling very good, get me a taxi. And they got him a taxi, the taxi drove him home. The people at the store called me at the church. He said, your dad's not feeling well, maybe like go home. So what he did was the taxi took him home. He walked up the steps, he took off his clothes, and then he lay down in bed, and he died. And by the time I got home, he was already dead. From my dad's point of view, that was a perfect way to die. He wanted to die that way. He didn't want to see the doctor unless he absolutely had to. And at that time, there was a strike in the Chinese cemeteries that were south of San Francisco and Coma. So we had to bring him over to Mountain View Cemetery in Oakland, and we buried him up on the hill. When my mother kept on living for quite a number of years. She died in the 1990s, and she wanted to be cremated, and so we're going to bury her ashes in the same plot that my father's buried. And so I'm up at the cemetery and I'm looking for the plot. I knew about where it was, but I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it, and so I had to go down to the cemetery headquarters and say, I'm really embarrassed, and I'm looking for my father's plot. And it's a place where they have level markers, and so they went up, they found it, but it had been all covered up with grass. And which meant that probably for several years I had never gone up to the cemetery actually to visit. So I made a resolution there, then and there, that would never happen again. And so in the back of the trunk of my car I have a little pail, a little brush, some garden tools, and so every now and then I go up there to check to make sure that it's not covered. And this afternoon I'm going to take off these fancy clothes that I wear to go to church, and I'm going to put on my civilian clothes I'm going to buy some flowers. I'm going to go up to the cemetery. I'm going to put some flowers there and think about my father. Without my father, there wouldn't be me. And then I think of myself as a father, and I kind of marvel at the fact that I can be partners with God to kind of generate new life. And I have 4 children. They all have their own families. They all want to take me out to lunch today, but I'm here. So I have to say, I'll have to take a rain check on that. My daughter, who is you have 4 children, they're all different. My daughter is just very expressive. She's very loving. She's very attentive to us aging parents. And so this morning I had an email from her that was like over a page long that she wrote at like 12:43, which is like this morning, because there's a little tag that tells you when it was sent. And then I don't think of myself as being that good a father, but she took what material she had and dramatized it in such a way that actually she made me look pretty good. But I appreciate it. I mean, I'm reading that. I said, well, yes, and I thought my own children were better parents to their children than I thought I ever was. I belong to the old school where the mother kind of took care of the home and the man is sort of outside doing his thing. Even now when my children call and I answer the phone, can I speak to Mom? Nobody wants to talk to me. But Father's Day gives us a great opportunity to think about the people who have loved us, believed in us, cared for us, best way they could, and help us to become the kind of person we are. And so whether or not we're actually biological fathers or whatever, this is a wonderful time just to think about the people who have molded and shaped our lives, and then to be grateful. And then also to think about the fact that we're actually ourselves molding and shaping, influencing other people's life, and that we can be used by God to be a blessing to other people. About 10 years ago, I went with a group of people to Israel. I'd never been there before, and one of the places we went to was the Sea of Galilee. I saw the Sea of Galilee from a kibbutz, and it looked very calm. It's the lowest freshwater lake in the world, and it's about 33 miles north and south, and about 18 miles east and west. I've never seen it before, but now when I read the Gospels and they talk about the Sea of Galilee, that kind of picture comes to my mind. And in the text today, you have Jesus and his disciples saying, we're going to the other side. And let's just kind of use that today as a metaphor about the fact that our lives is also going from one place to the next. And that going from that place to the other side, we always have to kind of cross a sea which sometimes calm and sometimes turbulent. And there are always changes in our lives and uncertainties, and that life never sort of goes in an absolutely straight line. So if your life is like mine, and there's no reason to think that it's not everything in your life turn out exactly the way you hope or plan. There are difficulties. There are unexpected things to happen. There are disappointments. We sometimes become the victims of unjust actions by other people. We have been stressed out. This is kind of normal. And so what you see in the story today, and this is the image that I want you to have in your mind, is that life is like a journey of crossing the sea, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent. And we're in this little frail boat, and so I remember reading a book of prayers for children, and each page illustrated. And what I remember especially is, "Oh Lord, have mercy on me. The ocean is wide, and my boat is very small." Okay, and so sometimes life feels like that, that your little tiny boat. And then I think about, when I'm reading your bulletin about the people graduating. I mean, maybe some of you have people graduating from senior high school, or somebody graduating from college. And then as parents, of course, we don't want them to hang around. I mean, we develop a kind of a possessive feeling about our children, but you don't want them to hang around the house. Your main job, is to get them ready to go out to sea. All right, so as parents, we're kind of launching our children out to sea, hoping, that the sea will be calm, and then more than that through the years that you have nurtured them and trained them, prayed for them, believed in them, and so on, that they would be sufficiently well built, as a little boat, that they can survive all the storms that life can bring. Let me just briefly mention 3 things that are kind of constantly happening in everybody's life. We're moving from one place to the next. The first is the life cycle. All right, we're moving from childhood to being teenagers. Teenagers is actually, if you remember your teenage years, actually a very anxious time, and kind of all kinds of strange things are happening to your body. And then when I was young, I was very concerned about whether people liked me. Whether I look right, whether the body shape is right. I'm always standing in front of the mirror. I mean, I would never want to be a teenager. I mean, I've done that, and then then there are then you go on to college, and I remember my own son, my young son. He always wanted to be a doctor. Always wanted to be a doctor. He worked real hard in college, and then remember when you went to college. After the final exam, you leave them a postcard and they send you your grade. Remember that? Well, anyway, so he's lying in bed and he's kind of one look up at the ceiling. His eyes all glazed over as he waits for those postcards to come back. Okay? So, I mean, here's a college student. He's in college. I mean, that's the good news, but he's worried. He's worried about crossing the sea, going to the other side. He doesn't know whether he will get to the other side. And then he was accepted actually in free medical schools. And then he was glad to hear the dean of the school say, once you get in, they said, we try very hard to keep you in. Okay. The state of California is committed to keep you in medical school. We're not here to try to get you out. So there are things that are happening in the life cycle where then there's getting into our first job, and then there's trying to get along with the people we work with. There's the midlife crisis. People say, I'm 45 years old. I'm doing this job. Do I want to do this for the next 20 years, or do I want to do something else? And then you retire. If you've been working really hard, you're looking forward to retirement. And the retirement has challenges too, health challenges. I'm spending most of my time seeing the doctor, nothing life-threatening, but people like me already had 2 bypasses. And my doctor son says, if it were not for my bypass, if it were not for my wife's pacemaker, he said, we'll both be dead by now. Right. So there are all these things that's going on in the life cycle, which involves going to the other side. And then there are things that have to do with where we are now. Now, the world I grew up in is so different from the world that my children grew up in. I don't even bother to talk to them about it. When I graduated from college, I belong to the first generation of Chinese that actually find jobs. In the early 50s, Chinese could even buy houses in many places. When I graduated from seminary, I never thought I could go anywhere except to a Chinese church. We had 4: San Francisco, Fresno, Seattle, and Sacramento. That was it. I mean, that is the sum total of the horizon of where I could do what I could. I actually grew up thinking if you're Chinese, you can never make anything happen. You can hope that it will happen or get somebody else to make it happen. So I grew up in an environment like that. I grew up in a church that was under the American Baptist Home Mission Society. When the roof leaked, we sent a telegram to New York to ask them to send us some money to fix it. I mean, we grew up like that. We thought this was... So my children grew up in a world completely different from mine. They never experienced any discrimination. The world for them is much wider than the world that I grew up in. And so there are, and then of course my grandchildren, so that's another thing that's constantly happening. And then finally there's that larger world in which our total life is set that involves geopolitics and all the things that are happening in the world today. So I hope that you're praying for Obama and you're praying for the leaders of the world, because it makes you appreciate more the fact that where Jesus says, "Blessed are the peacemakers." I mean, everybody has a role to play, but some people have really tremendously central, important roles to play that involves large groups of people, and even you can't imagine, what would happen if a war started, a massive, then everything forget about going to college, forget about careers, forget about having a future, forget it. So I'm looking at the bulletin and I'm really impressed. These people are doctors and really high-level things, and so that's very different from the environment that I grew up in. Now, when you got married, you made a promise. Well, why marry Marie? I know the vows because every now and then when I'm holding my wife's hand, I'm saying the vows silently. I know. I see that you. Okay, so I, James, take you, Marie, to be my wedded wife, and I do promise and covenant before God and these witnesses to be your loving and faithful husband in plenty and in want, in joy and in sorrow, in sickness and in health, as long as we both shall live. It's right there, in the marriage service that says, okay, this is wonderful, I'm getting married, this is the most wonderful thing but then the marriage service already kind of sends a little signal in the interest of full disclosure. That may not be all smooth. And that we expect you, when you make this commitment, to kind of hang in there with each other and not abandon each other the first time you have a difficulty. I mean, you made this promise in front of all your friends and all that, and in God's presence. So we already know that. And so The other day I was in my doctor's office, and you know how, he first you out in the big waiting room, and then they bring you in, weigh you, take your blood pressure and temperature and so on. And then they take you in one of the examination rooms. You could be there for a very long time, okay? So a doctor's helping another patient, he'll be there soon, okay? So it could be... So I'm sitting there waiting for the doctor to come, and then some of them have magazines to read, which tells you that, hey, it could be a little while. But then they didn't have any magazines, but they did have the mind and body health. So I picked it up and read it. And these are all the things that Kaiser Permanente offers. And I said, these are classes. All right, classes are. There's one on stress, there's one on managing your anger, there's one on depression, there's one on overcoming overeating, there's one on what to do when you have insomnia and can't sleep at night, and then there are groups for people with bipolar problems, obsessive compulsive disorder, panic disorder, social phobia, that's when you're afraid of people, worry, and there are support groups for people that have breast cancer, that have cancer, who are overworked caregivers, people that have chronic illness, depression, divorce, grief, job stress, adults who have been abused, molested as children, crisis, loss through murder, surviving violent crime. If we didn't do anything else, it kind of expanded my horizon about all the things that can go wrong with human life and all the storms that human life could be exalted by. I read recently that a lot of people don't have jobs. Okay, I hope that either you retire or that you have jobs, but a lot of people don't have jobs. California has an unemployment rate of 11.5%, which is very high, and that's over 2 million jobs. But over the last 12 months or so, I think we lost 800,000 jobs. 800,000 people lost their jobs. That's more than the total population of San Francisco. Lost their jobs. People with children to support, and mortgages to pay, and so on. They lost their jobs. I mean, now that's a story. Now, I want to mention a couple of things. One thing, what Paul said about the storms of life. Paul said in 1 Corinthians 10:13, no testing can overtake in you that is not common to everyone. So, which is Paul's way of saying, okay, you have this problem. Hey, everybody has these problems. Right? That's what Paul said. Everybody has this problem. I have them. You have them. Sooner or later, we're going to have them. That's a normal part of life. Then he says, God is faithful, and He will not let you be tested beyond your strength, but with the testing, He will also provide a way out so that you may be able to endure. Okay, so Paul is saying, hey, you're going to be tested, and there's going to be really tough times, but you're going to be okay. That's what Paul says. God will help you, and you're going to be okay. Now, Jesus says in the Gospel of John, in the world you have tribulation, but I have overcome the world. And the Good News Bible says, the world will make you suffer, but be brave, I have defeated the world. So somebody said, you're either heading toward a storm, or you're actually in the storm, or you just recently came out of a storm. So somewhere along the line. Now I'm going to end with something I read during the week. This is by a United Church of Christ minister in the state of Massachusetts. This is written by a woman. And he's commenting on this text that we're looking at today, and she says, as a seminarian, I work hard to prepare for parish ministry. The more I prepared, the less ready I felt. Finally, I love this part, I think. Finally, I just had to get into the boat and trust that Jesus would be there for me just as I am, and with all that I had. And then she said, so far, I haven't gone under. So, when we have storms of life, and Jesus is in the boat with us, we're going to be okay. We're not going to be going under. And there's a lot of people sitting here today, especially if you've gone through more than one storm in your life. A lot of you who are sitting here today can say, that's the story of my life. I've met a lot of storms, but with Jesus in my little boat, up to now, I haven't gone under. Let us pray. Oh, gracious God, you have not promised that we would have an easy life, but you have promised that you will be the faithful God, who is ever by our side and from whose love we can never be separated. So have mercy on us in this little boat in the wide ocean. Be with us in this boat. In the times of calm and in the times of storms. That in this journey that we make, which we call our life, that you will always be there to uphold us and to guide us and to lead us and to save us. Amen.